Hospitals are a touchy subject for me, but this is the first time Horobi henshin, so I couldn't just skip it. We open the episode at the National Cyber Hospital, where Adato is getting a checkup by a Humagear nurse called Mashiro-chan, meaning basically pure white, which one, very hospitally, and two, fits nicely with her nickname, the White Angel. And Adato has such a thing about viewing Humagear as these pure angels who can do no wrong. Humagear aren't allowed to have negative emotions or be negative in any way. They're just these perfect beings who exist to support humans, and humans can rely on them, and it's uncomfortable and ew. So having a Humagear literally be called an angel here. Okay, I know it really sounds like I'm nitpicking here with what I'm about to say. And I have to stress that I was not thinking this deeply about things the first time. It's purely with hindsight that these tiny little things bother me. If not for Adato's constant disregard for Humagear throughout the series, I wouldn't be thinking these things now. But asking if your data is safe from hackers is a perfectly valid question. It's absolutely the kind of question he should be asking during these visits. The hospital staff Humagear have access to personal information, and it's important that this information is safe. It's important that your personal information is safe with whoever knows it. It's important human staff don't walk out the door with it and hand it to the first person who asks. You do need to treat different circumstances differently. That's not inequality. But why is he asking Izu and not Mashiro? I'd understand if he didn't just want to take her word for it and want some actual solid proof that the information is safe. But it's the way he speaks over Mashiro, who's right there, that just feels a little rude and belittling. If Adato had asked, Mashiro had answered, and Izu had confirmed, that would have been different. Or if he'd have asked in general, and Izu had just happened to be the one to answer, that would have been different. Or even if he'd have asked Izu privately afterwards, but this just feels like he's at a car dealership. I don't know, it just feels odd. Izu assures Adato that personal data is safe because of local networks and whatnot, and then we cut to Ansatsu-chan, who tries to hack a nurse, and it doesn't work. And can I just say, the nurse turns around and Ansatsu-chan immediately dodges out of sight, and then again, good for you, Ansatsu-chan, that was spectacular. He's so much more aware of his movements here than he was in the last episode. I just adore watching him progress and advance and learn throughout his appearances. Jin asks Horobi how many humans there are in the world, and Horobi answers his question. Look, I'm never gonna shut up about this. Jin asks questions, Horobi answers, and it's Jin asks how many humans there are in the world. Horobi tells him it's 7.7 billion, and that medical advancements cause the number to grow. Which, I have to say, this has nothing to do with anything, but how annoying is it as a disabled person when you talk about like everything you need to live, and anti-medication or anti-technology people are like, well, what do you think people used to do like 100 years ago before all of this stuff was available, as a sort of got you sort of aha, you don't need all of this stuff after all, I caught you out moment, and you're just like, they died, mate. Anyway, do Humagear have hospitals of their own? What happens if a Humagear is injured and hasn't previously met Adato? Humagear should have emergency services of their own. Humagear should have lines to call for specific situations. It's horrifying that they don't. Anyway, I'm going off again. Come on, Saf, focus. Jin asks how many people there are in the world. Horobi tells him it's 7.7 billion because of medical advancements. Jin's like, that's so many people, it'll be really hard extinguishing humanity. Ansatsu-chan comes in and Jin's like, Fen, you didn't die, and bounces up and down excitedly and repeatedly high-fives him. He's so cute and I miss him so much. And Ansatsu-chan tells Horobi that the hacking failed, and Horobi's just fine with it, because as much as Jin mentions it once or twice, Horobi as a general rule doesn't get mad. And Horobi revived Ansatsu-chan in the second Matsuri body, and gave him his new mission but never told Jin. Jin doesn't seem all that privy to plans, and sometimes it feels almost as if Jin was always just a package deal with Horobi. They weren't both chosen, Jin just came with Horobi. And it goes nicely with the theory that Horobi doesn't tell him all the things because he's instinctively trying to protect him, even if he doesn't know why or even that he's doing it. We know Horobi's love for Jin is the one thing stronger than the arc. He doesn't lie to him, and now Jin's seen him alive, but Horobi's perfectly fine yet again to explain things to Jin. It's like he doesn't want to involve Jin, but he will if he has to, but only if he has to. We're back at the hospital. Aruto makes a joke, no one laughs. Izu comments on it, Aruto's like, no! we do hear a laugh, and it's Fua, and Fua says he's there for a checkup as well, and Aruto's like, that's unexpected, I thought you were the kind of person to spit on your wounds and call it a day. And I used to love their interactions so much, I really did. They were standoffish, then they had that moment in episode 4 at Daybreak where Aruto reveals himself to show he's completely serious about not having secrets, and how they kind of, you know, trust each other just that little bit more. But they're not all of a sudden best friends, but you can see how they're set up to become closer as the series goes on. I really appreciated that. Their relationship didn't suddenly change, but something has been sparked. And I was really interested to see where that would go. I kind of thought, okay, we have two kind of extremes here. Fua absolutely despises humour gear and Aruto basically worships them. So maybe throughout the series they'd kind of meet in the middle. Aruto would teach Fua that you can't just hate humour gear who have nothing to do with it, and Fua would teach Aruto that you can't just put humour gear on a pedestal. You can't assume all humour gear are negative like Fua, but neither can you assume they never have negative feelings ever like Aruto. I thought that about a lot of things in this series, honestly, where I kind of expected two characters to meet in the middle and affect each other, but instead one character would just be expected to leap over to the other side entirely with no development from the so-called good side. I'd have just loved a moment between Aruto and Fua where Aruto's like, you can't judge all humour gear based only on your experiences, and maybe Fua or someone else says to Aruto, well, isn't that exactly what you're doing? Fua's stance is, we don't need humour gear. Aruto's stance is, humanity is better with humour gear, and nobody seems to be advocating actually for humour gear. It's always just humour gear in relation to humans. I'd have loved Aruto to see that, and I feel like his relationship with Fua could have helped him see that, because it's not humour gear's responsibility, you know. Anyway, that's bugger all to do this episode. I just get so sad when I watch the early episodes and what could have been. But in fact, the next interaction just sums them both up so well. Fua talks about how even the potential of gaining self-awareness makes humour gear dangerous, because they could rampage at any minute. And right on cue, a pregnant woman trips and Mashido catches her, and Aruto's like, look at her, she's nothing but a ball of goodness. And Aruto is defending a humour gear, and that's really all I've wanted, but it still feels disingenuous, and I know it sounds like I'm being harsh, but the defence shouldn't be humour gear are pure and good and the angry ones are the anomaly. It should be humour gear are alive, you shouldn't be so willing to kill them. Perhaps most chillingly in this episode is when Horobi, Jin and Ansatz-chan all go to the Ames place together, and Yua is Ansatz-chan's target, and he goes Ansatz instead of Ansatsu, you know, because he's learning, he's maturing, and he's becoming a more and more serious assassin. He's still got his childish nature, because earlier in the episode he was going Humage no Hakingu, Shippai, Byori no Security, Yaburenai. All adorable like that, but then when it comes to being an assassin, he's more serious. Then we got to the hospital and Aruto blows a raspberry out of Fua, and he looks behind him and Aruto and Izu hide behind a thing, and that's so real. I like them together so much. It's something I talk about a lot, but I adore just little moments in this series. It's the little moments that really make a character, and I just found that tiny little action just so adorable. He's a Kamen Rider and a CEO, and here he is blowing a raspberry at his rival, and what could have been, seriously. It's something about Aruto that I just found endearing back in the day. It humanised him, it grounded him, and I miss those simpler moments, honestly. Fua insulting humour gear yet again, and Mashido offering to perform a brain scan. I love that, especially since Izu then says neurology is not a responsibility. Fua tries to shoot Mashido a bit after that because gaining singularity is bad and evil and she needs to be terminated, and Aruto immediately leaps to her defence and grabs the gun and starts yelling at Fua that her job is to save lives, there's no way she'd harm people. You know, because humour gear don't exist outside of their jobs and their only worth is how they help humans. Then a Giga attacks hospital and there's this whole thing about how diligently humour gear help humans because of course there is. It's not stop attacking humour gear because, well, just stop attacking people, damn it. It's stop attacking humour gear. Can't you see how wonderful they are when they help humans? All of their worth is in how much they help humanity. Then the big reveal happens. I mean, we already knew Jin was a humour gear, but now we see Horobi too. And okay, Toei, are we going to just ignore you having completely changed the way Horobi's broken earpiece bit looks? Are you really going to show that once and then expect your fans not to completely obsess like, oh my god, what happened? What happened to Horobi's earpieces? How much did that hurt? There's a story there. Obviously Jin just wasn't created with them, but Horobi had them, and they were ripped off somehow, clearly violently. I mean, look at those cracks, and it's broken inside too. There's this one just huge crack inside. A humour gear goes down when their earpieces get lightly scratched. How is Horobi still functioning? What happened? That looks so painful. I'm not even addressing how disturbing the line humour gear are the machines we've dreamed of is. I think by now you understand my sentiments towards lines like those. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. Horobi and Jin's, Horobi and Jin's, Horobi and Jin's. And Jin is behind him, I think, encapsulating my own energy, which is bouncing up and down, clapping his hands, going, Kakoi! I know, Jin, I feel you. Apparently there are some theories floating around that whoever's wearing the Sting Scorpion suit in the beginning, you know, in the Korewa Senda video, might not actually be Horobi, and I just want to say that 1, please don't go retconning things and undoing things. Horobi was hacked. You don't need to go back and say, oh surprise, it wasn't Horobi after all because you want him to be the good guy now. He was never the bad guy to begin with, he was hacked. And 2, that was Tsunagawa's voice. You can't go back on Tsunagawa's voice. My god, he's so cool. That's genuinely all I can say. He's just so cool. I just love Fua hitting him with everything he's got, and then Horobi just emerging from the fire and smoke unfazed. And then Horobi does the cool guy thing of walking away from the explosion. Just, oh my god. Next episode, Fua gets a life-saving surgery by humour gear. Humour gear get hacked again. We learn about the humour gear kill switch, right? And is that the episode where Horobi says the line about not being slaves to humanity? Because I feel like we need to talk about that.